Welcome to this explainer. Okay, I want you to imagine stepping right into a cozy, beautifully animated office. It's this warm, soft pastel world bustling with diverse, hardworking animals. But today, we're going to walk alongside one very specific, highly successful cat. We're going to experience a deeply human phenomenon directly through their eyes, pulling from peer-reviewed research on workplace dynamics, personality disorders, and self-doubt. We are going to unpack exactly how the subtle behaviors of the animals around us can actually trigger our very deepest internal insecurities. It's a pretty heavy question, right? But be honest. Have you ever sat at your desk, looked at your own accomplishments, and suddenly felt this icy grip of panic? Like you're absolutely terrified that your coworkers are finally going to figure out you just don't belong there? Well, if so, you definitely aren't alone. This deeply relatable workplace anxiety is exactly what our feline friend wrestles with every single day, and it really sets the perfect stage for our story. So let's get into part one, the cat's workplace dilemma. Just take a look at our cat's desk. It's covered in shiny awards, superior performance ratings, glowing client feedback. By all objective measures, this feline is an absolute superstar. But here is the heartbreaking paradox. Despite all this undeniable outward success, our cat is just crumbling internally. They're terrified of being exposed as a complete fake. Every single award doesn't feel like a victory to them. It honestly just feels like another heavy lie they have to maintain. Which brings us to part two. What exactly is imposter syndrome? So, back in 1978, psychologists Clanson and Ames actually put a clinical name to what our cat is feeling. They called it imposter syndrome, and they defined it as the persistent inability to internalize success. Basically, this means that even with hard, objective evidence of talent and competence, you end up attributing your achievements to mere luck or good timing, or simply fooling everyone around you. For our cat, all that success just feels like an accident. It's this fragile illusion that could completely shatter the second someone looks too closely. And, it becomes this exhausting, relentless cycle. It's literally a hamster wheel. It starts with this heavy cloud of anxiety about a new task, which pushes our cat into either extreme, late night over-preparation or just paralyzing procrastination. And when this inevitably results in temporary success, what do? They completely discount it. They tell themselves, ugh, I only succeeded because I worked myself to the bone, or I just got lucky this time. So praise actually amplifies their doubt instead of soothing it. Our poor cat is just running on this wheel until their spirit is totally depleted. Now, let's look at part three, the domino effect of ostracism. You see, our cat doesn't work in a vacuum. This office ecosystem is incredibly delicate and, honestly, pretty intimidating. Every single day, the cat has to carefully navigate around two very specific supporting characters, a grandiose lion and a covertly narcissistic fox. Now, when colleagues possess these traits, they tend to prioritize their own recognition above absolutely everything else. For our quiet, hardworking cat, trying to survive in a space where these personalities constantly disrupt the harmony, it's incredibly draining. We're really looking at two distinct profiles driving this tension. First, you have overt narcissism. This is perfectly represented by our lion, grandiose, arrogant, actively seeking the center stage, and sometimes bluntly putting others down to stay there. But then you have covert or vulnerable narcissism, which is our fox. The fox might appear humble, maybe even victimized, but they are hypersensitive to criticism and subtly use their suffering to control the room's attention. So completely different tactics, right? But both of these colleagues are driven by a fragile self-esteem and an intense, overwhelming need for external affirmation. And this actually brings us to a wonderfully poignant quote from clinical researchers Leotti and Lorenzini. They wrote, "You children always want the juice of the eyes." I just love how poetic that is. It so beautifully captures the insatiable, desperate hunger for validation that drives these behaviors in the office. The lion roars for it, the fox weeps for it, but they are both desperately feeding on that juice of the eyes, that undivided attention from everyone else in the room. And honestly, it sucks all the oxygen right out of the workplace. The science behind how this plays out is completely fascinating. Recent peer-reviewed organizational research, like the mediation model we're looking at here, reveals a very clear path. Narcissism creates intense interpersonal strain. So, to cope with the lion's demands and the fox's endless drama, the other animals often react by subtly withdrawing from the environment. This withdrawal creates widespread workplace ostracism. And guess who gets caught in the silent crossfire? Our cat. This subtle, pervasive exclusion directly spikes the cat's feelings of being an absolute imposter. To really understand why this silent treatment hurts the cat so much, we can look at the conservation of resources, or COR theory. Imagine our cat literally has a visible social energy meter hovering right above their head. When they are ostracized by the group, valuable social resources, like a sense of belongingness, recognition, and support, are rapidly drained away. And because our cat's self-worth is already incredibly fragile, this continuous resource loss isn't just mildly annoying, it is emotionally devastating. And the thing is, this ostracism isn't always obvious. It's rarely aggressive. It manifests in these quiet, indirect ways. It's the cat looking up and seeing the other animals grabbing coffee without them. It's being left off a casual email chain, or suddenly realizing relevant project information was just withheld. It's not overt hostility, sure, but this quiet, daily exclusion makes the cat fundamentally question their own value and legitimacy on the team. And here is the ultimate tragedy of the whole situation. The cat completely internalizes the office silence. Instead of seeing the lion and the fox's toxic drama for what it actually is, a reflection of their colleagues' own deep insecurities, the cat views this social distance as undeniable proof of their own personal incompetence. The quiet office literally whispers to them, "See, they finally figured out you're a fraud. You really don't belong here." Let's transition into part 4, the 5 common imposters. Based on university counseling resources, there are 5 common manifestations of this syndrome. So which of these specific masks might our cat, or maybe even you, be wearing at work? First, there's the perfectionist, who believes anything less than 100% flawless is a total failure. Then the natural genius, who thinks if they have to actually work hard at something, they aren't truly smart. The soloist refuses to ask for help because they think that proves their incompetence. The expert won't speak up unless they know absolutely every single piece of information. And finally, the superhero feels they must excel simultaneously in every single life role just to be deemed worthy. Wearing any of these masks requires living a really painful dual life. Autoethnographic research highlights this tension perfectly. It's all about maintaining a front stage composure while suffering a massive backstage collapse. All day long, our cat is performing. They're playing the role of the cheerful, confident, award-winning professional. But the second that office door closes and they're finally alone, the anxiety and exhaustion completely take over, causing an internal collapse. It is just a massive, completely unsustainable emotional toll. Finally, let's look at part 5, the antidote for self-worth. Fortunately, the source material does offer some really gentle, evidence-based steps for our cat to slowly rebuild their self-image. Step 1. They must gently challenge the norm, stepping out of their comfort zone to break that rigid cycle of perfectionism. Step 2, objectively recognize personal strengths. Maybe that means asking a trusted, kind colleague for some honest feedback. Step 3, purposely notice the good in their daily life to counter the brain's heavy negative bias. And step 4, actually reward those achievements. Instead of immediately moving the goalpost, our cat needs to just pause, take a breath, and celebrate what they have genuinely earned. Because ultimately, this is the core takeaway for our feline friend, and honestly for all of us. True belonging doesn't require perfection. It requires participation. The cat has to stop trying to endlessly please that grandiose lion or rescue the vulnerable fox. They have to stop desperately seeking that juice of the eyes from a completely toxic environment, and instead learn to wrap themselves in internal acceptance. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Think about it. If we finally step off that exhausting hamster wheel, and if we stop desperately seeking external applause and validation from a flawed office ecosystem, can we finally belong to ourselves? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Take a moment today to reflect on your own workplace relationships. Gently put down that imposter mask, and I'll see you next time.
Knowledge grows through sharing. What are your thoughts on today's topic? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe as we continue to grow together.